Hey guys, it's Brian with the Horror Experience, doing another video. I've been doing mostly the shorts, just because they load faster. Of course, you don't have nearly as much time to do anything, but these longer videos take like an hour or 2 hours to upload, which I wish YouTube would figure out something that was a little faster than that. You know, you do a 10-minute video and you wait 2 hours before you can watch it. But anyway, I wanted to do a review on the next movie I'm going to watch, which I've seen before, but it's been a while. And going to head down the horror music road here with Lords of Chaos. Um, those of you that are into metal and so on are going to know exactly what this is. This is based on primarily on the band Mayhem from Norway that started in the 80s. Basically, they were the pioneers of the black metal scene. Now, for those of you that are not aware of what black metal is, I'm sure some of you might be, but it's actually, it started out as more of like a satanic metal. And then, of course, it kind of describes the sound. And it's real fast guitars, super fast blast beats, and the screamy vocals. Um, it's not the deep, growly vocals like you get with death metal. It's more of the real, and some people aren't real fond of that. And some of the early bands were really fast and just kind of, blurry. It was kind of hard to get much out of it. But nowadays they've kind of taken it down a little bit. But anyway, this is a movie that's based on the band Mayhem. And I think Enthroned is actually in this too. They were another band that was kind of controversial out of Norway as well. Mayhem started in the actually it was the early to mid 80s. And they started out as just a cover band who, they did like they covered different songs from like classic rock to hard rock, maybe some metal stuff. And then they just kind of broke off on their own and started doing some really heavier stuff. And they wanted to, Euronymous, who was basically started the band, um, wanted to take it to the next level, and he wanted to really get on the map as far as black metal is concerned. And so they did some real extreme things, and they took it from just being, a band and, being entertainment to actually really doing some awful things, and including church burnings. I don't know how involved Mayhem got involved in that. The guy that came from Burzum was more involved in that. He was also from Norway as well. They were burning Norwegian churches and, Christian churches, and then they were uh, involved in all kinds of just absolute chaos. Hence the name of the movie. And then they started wearing the war paint when Mayhem brought in the vocalist, and he called himself Dead. And he was actually from Sweden, I believe. He was a blonde singer. And he was very controversial uh, in the sense that he would bury his clothes before shows, so it smelled like it'd been in a grave or something. I don't know what his intention was, but to be as dark as possible, the band would put goat heads and sheep heads and whatever else on stakes on stage in their in their concerts, and they were real heads. They I don't know if they went to a butcher shop and got them or what. I would imagine. Um, they would do like, or at least Dead would. He would do like self mutilation on stage, like cutting and bleeding and so on. Kind of reminds me a little bit of G.G. Allen, the punk rocker who did all of that real extreme stuff. Actually, I think he was even more extreme than Mayhem. But anyway, things went from bad to worse. After they brought in Dead, he ended up committing suicide in 1991. He was just really had a lot of problems and just super depressed. And of course, being as dark as they were, it doesn't surprise me that more of them weren't depressed to that point. I know there were a few other black metal bands that had issues with suicides and just acting out. But anyway, he committed suicide, and Euronymous, who was equally wacko, found dead. He had shot himself. Well, he had cut himself up and then shot himself with a shotgun in the head. And he took photographs of it, and they actually put it on one of their albums, which was an album that was actually a bootleg. Some fan or somebody recorded one of their live concerts, and then somehow or another they got a hold of it, and they decided to make an album out of it, and they put a photograph of Dead after his suicide, which was quite graphic. I'm really surprised they got away with it. In fact, if you get on Google, you can look it up and find the album cover. It's all over the place. With his brains all over the place. It's a mess. But anyway, and then Euronymous decided to take pieces of his brain, and they made some kind of stew out of it. And then took bone fragments from his skull and made necklaces out of it. And then later they claimed that was false. And then again later they found out that it actually happened. So, which doesn't surprise me any, as they were quite controversial in that area. Later on, they brought in the guy from Burzum, which is another black, he started a band on his own called Burzum, and I can't think of the guy's name right offhand, but he was in Mayhem for a while, and he and Euronymous didn't get along very well, so he murdered him. And that was couldn't have been that long after Dad committed suicide, but I don't remember the exact year that took place. But anyway, so the guy from Burzum ended up in prison, and in Norway, I think 21 years is the limit for prison time. Unlike here where you can get life, or in Canada you get life, or the death penalty, depending on the state you're in. Not in Norway. In fact, he's already out of prison, because this happened in the 90s, I guess. And then they used to hang out with a band called Enthroned, another black metal band, and they had a member in that band who murdered a gay guy who was trying to pick him up. Stabbed him like over 30 times or something like that, and he ended up in prison. So as you can see, this is all in this movie, and it follows their career at least the beginning portion of their career, because the band is still going today, but it's just they're not like they used to be. They have new members, and it's a different thing now. They're just a band now. It's not all the craziness that it used to be. But this stuff in the old days was just crazy. And but But that's how they got on the map. Just all the craziness. Lords of Chaos. So anyway, that's basically a metal or music movie that's based on the black metal scene. And like I said, they were one of the pioneers of black metal, so they were one of the ones who actually started it, along with a handful of other bands that started around the same time, like Enthroned, and I think Dark Throne came in later, and then bands are just everywhere now. And then you have like subgenres of black metal. You got depressed black metal, and this black metal, and that black metal. You know, then you had Immortal come out, and you know, it's crazy. It's just there's thousands and thousands of these bands now that they just come out of the woodwork, and they're from all over the world. In fact, I think metal is in every country except parts of Africa. But pretty nuts. Anyway, it's definitely worth a watch. There isn't really a whole lot of like music, sort of. I mean, it doesn't have any soundtracks, you know, like from their albums or anything too much in it. It's mostly acting, and everybody in it is, you know, hits it pretty good as far as playing the band members. And if anything, you know, I'm not really a huge black metal fan. I'm mostly death metal, and then under, all the way to disco and everything else under the sun. Except for rap, it's the only music I won't listen to. I will listen to black metal, but usually it's just when I'm with somebody that likes it, you know, and I just kind of deal with it. But it's not because of the subject matter or anything like that. I'm just not crazy about the sound. It's it's harder to decipher, you know, and it's definitely a step above death metal as far as being able to grasp a taste for it. You know, you have to really, I mean, some people can get a taste for it, and some people just can't. And I just don't really get much out of it. But I like the imagery, and I like the horror and all of that they deal with. And like I said, they're not all satanic. It's, sometimes they deal with other subject matter. But anyway, if anything, you can watch this just out of pure curiosity. There is gore in it. It's depicting the suicides and the murders and all of that. But anyway, it's worth a check out. Even if you don't care for metal and stuff, it's still kind of a interesting watch. I mean, it's just an interesting, well-acted movie. So anyway, that's all I had for you today, and we'll see how long it takes to upload this, and we shall talk at you later. All right, guys, enjoy.